What happens when Toyota gives a half-ton truck to an independent Texas cattle rancher, and he uses it like a 3/4-ton truck for 100,000 grueling miles? Find out as Toyota engineers get the truck back and dissect the guts to see how it held up. This is Tundra Deconstructed.
We basically gave the vehicle to the ranchers to verify that in an extremely severe environment that our test standards would hold up and meet their expectations.
Well, I'm the foreman or the manager on this ranch. It's almost 300 square miles. We go 16, 18 hours a day. Some days I do 200 miles on that truck.
Out here in West Texas, you drive a long way. And you go down the road and it's just really rough and bouncing and, just tremendous vibration.
They can blade the roads and they'll be tore up in a week's time. Washboarded, holes knocked in. If it rains, then they're really a mess.
What is a washboard road?
Well, it's kind of like a washboard. The Tundra is the best truck or pickup that I've ever driven on the washboard road as far as the durability of it. Most of them have their front end knocked out within 35, 40,000 miles. You're going to have front end work done on them.
So now that the Tundra's been beaten up, what we'll do is we'll tear it apart piece by piece, right down to the frame. Anything that was bolted down gets taken off. And then the parts are all tagged and bagged and set aside for the engineers to inspect.
You can test and engineer and build something to a certain standard, but until it's used out in the field by people in their everyday work, you never know how it's going to perform.
I have no leaks to my hydrocarbon filter. It's all heat stake here, so that looks good.
There's no cracks on the bracket itself. The grommets, the rubber grommets aren't split or anything, so it handled itself pretty well.
100,000 miles on the door, it looks pretty good.
One of the things we'll do is we'll actually do a lot of crack checks on the welds to make sure that all the welds held up.
We're checking the stress points. Basically, we're looking for body cracks, things that you wouldn't see on the surface.
No problem. No cracking.
This was our tailgate damper stay. It gives us the good opening and closing of the tailgate system.
What did you think of the tailgate with the hydraulic system?
Yeah, I really liked it. You just open it and walk off. You didn't have to worry about it slamming down or breaking the supports or anything like that. Just open it and don't worry about it.
Still is functional, which I'm happy to see. It's kind of a shame that we had to tear it down now. I'd like to see how it goes a little longer.
The interior components have actually held up pretty well, surprisingly, for the environment it was in. My honest opinion is it could go well into 200,000.
Basically, from a suspension standpoint, brake and steering, nothing was replaced on the truck during the time period. Brakes were actually still the original when the truck was brought back after 100,000 miles. We do have the largest diameter front rotor of any of the full-size trucks, bigger than the F-150, Silverado, and the Ram.
It weighs about 30 pounds here.
It's just a heavier built. You just don't have anything go wrong in the Toyota. It just holds up a lot more. It's just a better built truck, just that simple. The phone rang about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I heard this voice. I knew it was not a West Texas voice, but I thought, well, my mother told me to be polite, and so I'll listen to what the man has to say. He wanted to know if I'd be interested in testing some Toyota trucks, and I said, well, after a pause, I said, certainly. I mean, anytime I get a truck to test, that sounds okay to me.
I had my doubts. I didn't think it was big enough, and I just didn't figure it'd hold together. But it did.
Found out right quick it would pull much better than another half-ton. Mostly you would pull cows, cattle, calves, whatever. You do haul horses once in a while. You can take a half-ton Tundra and put a 24-foot gooseneck hooked up with cattle in it and pull it like a 3/4-ton Chevrolet or Ford. The 24-foot gooseneck is a big gooseneck.
Well, I don't know what the total weight of the trailer is, but those grown cows, if they weigh 1,200, we have 12 in there, do the math. I mean, that's pretty close to, I don't know what, it's lots of weight.
Our towing capacity is 10,800 pounds. Although I can't really say we approve of the use, I'm sure that he probably exceeded those capacities at some point in time.
Yeah, I overloaded it, but it was a test truck, right?
Even though they were towing heavy loads, we really didn't find any major issues with the truck after 100,000 miles. The transmission, the ring gear, the frame, and suspension, everything held up really good.
So this is one of the front shocks and coil spring assemblies for the truck. Basically everything looks to have held up very well. So no big signs of any leaking from the shock or anything like that.
With the cabin bed removed, we'll inspect the frame for any cracks. We'll check to see if any mud collected inside the C-channel, then take some photos for the designers to get a closer look. At first glance, the frame looks good.
With the Tundra, the goal is to use the frame as a little bit of a flexing mechanism. Rigid doesn't necessarily mean strong. You know, the strength is one thing, rigidity is another.
I was really expecting to break a spring, yes, a rear spring, the leaf springs. I was expecting them to break, but they didn't, so I guess they're tougher than I thought they were. The cake cube feed trailer or the liquid feed trailers were probably harder on the truck than these big trailers because it is a movable load on there. It's sloshing and it's a little short trailer and it will test your receiver hitch.
Did you ever teach your dad about driving a half-ton rather than a three-quarter-ton?
No, because I couldn't get him to shut up about it. I mean, comparing to these other pickups, he was really impressed with it.
You know, the thing, like, we keep harping on the same deal, but the 100,000 miles and the suspension and the stern is just unbelievable to me because there's no other pickup we've ever had, anytime, any place, anywhere that you did not have a steering problem or suspension problem within 100,000 miles used in the environment that we use these trucks in.
So this engine looks pretty dirty. What are you hoping to see when you take it apart?
What we're looking for with the 5.7 liter is just how well it performed and how tight is this engine and how much performance is still there after 100,000 hard 100,000 miles.
Trucks, we can't do without them. When I was a child, we did everything horseback, chuck wagon, the whole 9 yards. But now we have trucks and trailers, which makes it much easier.
In this environment, at 100,000 miles in 2 years is probably about average. Either pulling a trailer, checking water, or just doing something that needs to be done on the ranch. Some days I'd do 200 miles on that truck.
Trying to get this thing prepped to go over to the engine shop.
Once we remove the engine from the truck, we load it up and take it over to a separate location where the engine guys tear it down and analyze its performance.
This is the heart of the beast. This is what moves that Tundra down the road. We really look closely at these when we do a durability teardown. Okay, here we have the upper intake manifold. Here this gasket looks like it's sealed pretty tight. There's nothing leaking out past anywhere. This is the oil cooler housing. Everything looks pretty good. They don't even look like they got 50 miles on them. We're going to get everything laid out here on a table. We'll bring all the engineers over. One might be looking at pistons and another engineer might be looking at a cylinder head gasket. But we'll get everybody that's involved with this engine over here and let them look at it.
Dirt is one of the #1 enemies for an engine. You could actually see like all the road dust that's accumulated up here on the front seal. That's a pretty good shot of what this thing went through.
Well, it's a work truck. I either can do my job or I can wash a truck. I'd have to wash a truck at least every other day, so I just didn't worry about it.
I think whenever you're running a truck hard, you want to be able to keep it cool, and you can't do that with a bad water pump. And the water pump shows really, really good durability. It's stainless steel. Some of our competitors don't use stainless steel, so that's probably one of the other reasons why this pump looks as good as it does.
How hot does it get here?
In the summer, on some years it gets probably up to 114, 115 degrees, especially in July and August.
Were you ever worried about breaking down up there in the middle of nowhere?
No, never had a problem with worrying about being stuck.
The construction of this engine is 4 valves per cylinder, 2 intake valves and 2 exhaust valves. This allows the engine to have better volumetric efficiency, and this is one of the key features that allows this engine to make 381 horsepower.
The power is great. The power is great. It's not a diesel, but it's probably the best gas engine on the road today as far as power.
They had no problem towing those trailers?
Oh, no. No, you could tow it way faster than you needed to be.
This thing's built for capability, and, they dished it out, and I think we're seeing here that it really did take it.
Everything in there was really well over-engineered.
As an engineer, what's your favorite part?
I have about 2,000 favorite parts.
We can talk about the individual components, and they are impressive on their own. There's a lot of thought that goes into each one of those components, but it's how well you can package that together and how those individual parts fit together.
To most people, this would look like a big pile of junk, but for us, it allowed us to test the truck and gather data from a real-world testing.
A lot of people weren't even sure the truck was going to make it in the environment that we put it in, especially with the heat and the dirt. But after driving 95% of its life off-road, this truck,
it did prove itself.
We were expecting to come out here and have more problems, and we didn't have any serious issues. And I mean, it just really functioned. This is a great truck. I'd drive this truck for another 100,000 miles.